In this series, we have examined all of the Hermetic principles and its associated phenomena. In this video, we are going to review each of the Hermetic principles and its phenomena to get the overall metaphysical framework for how the supernatural operates. Once this task is completed, and as soon as we explain the relevant metaphysics, we are going to go over what the final conclusion can bring us. As will be shown, we will demonstrate that the marriage between God and man is essential and necessary for the salvation of mankind in order to establish the global Eden. To recap earlier in the series, we went over the principle of mentalism. The principle of mentalism is simply that the universe is mental, held in the mind of the all. We derive this principle by showing that non-contextual realism has been falsified, and therefore, the state of a quantum system depends on the measurements that it is being taken in the context of an experiment. Furthermore, when we combine the concept of emergent spacetime with quantum cognition, we showed how spacetime emerges from consciousness. On top of this, we went over Donald Hoffman's conscious realism as a model to explain how the interactions between conscious agents can generate the physical space-time universe. In other words, conscious agents are the objective reality by which things operate. The universal wave function, by contrast, is a single conscious agent that contains the entire universe within itself. Next was a principle of correspondence. This principle describes how the inner world of the mind will correspond to the physical universe, that our inner worlds are equivalent to the supernatural realm that is generating the space-time universe. Furthermore, from here, we described how Jung's collective subconscious describes the archetypes behind physical reality, and that the world is simply made of subconscious content. And we also went over other planes, such as the astral plane, and its relationship to things like near-death experiences and PSI phenomena. Next, we explained religious phenomena such as prayer, divination, and demonic possession, and demonstrated that none of this has to be unknowable to the rational mind. Prayer was explained when we realized that the mind of the all, or what religions refer to as God, generates the universe from the collective inner mental plane, and in turn, the practitioner talks to God in his or her own mental inner plane, which of course is a part of the greater collective inner mental plane. Since the mind of the all spans the entirety of this realm, this mind knows all and can hear all within it. We then went over how divination works, and divination is when people have the ability to access the mental inner plane, and through archetypal imagery, it can be used into what is happening in the future of the space-time universe. Furthermore, we explained that demonic possession is when conscious agents in the mental inner plane will influence the minds of humans also extended in the mental inner realm. These beings would influence a person by getting their thoughts to resonate with the mental vibrations of the demons. After this took place, we went over and explained the fallen state and salvation metaphysics. We explained that the fallen state corresponds to fractured consciousness in the mental inner plane, and that the only candidate that could fix the fallen state would be the one who is in a perfect unfallen state, which is the mind of the all. Now, as it relates to salvation, near the end of this video, we are going to review more precisely how the mind of the all does save mind from the fallen state, but we will have to save that until the end. Next, we went over the principle of vibration as well as the mechanism for how miracles operate. We found that miracles are no more a violation of the laws of nature than entanglement is a violation of classical laws. And once this is understood with the principle of cause and effect, we see that miracles are simply working by mechanisms that operate on the deeper layer of reality we would refer to as the mental inner plane or the supernatural realm. The principle of polarity and rhythm are also gone over to explain the different degrees of vibration within nature, as well as the rhythm that goes within the poles of that same vibration. The viewer is encouraged to watch those videos to get a more detailed description of these principles. We also went over free will and synchronicity, and how neuroscience as well as quantum mechanics shows that there is in fact free will within our minds, and that quantum indeterminacy is identical to mind making free will decisions in the wave function. Finally, we went over the principle of gender and its relationship to the rest of creation. It was revealed that gender manifests in everything, and that it has its masculine and feminine parts, which in turn can be applied to the consciousness behind reality. So, from these ideas, we get the general conclusion that the world we all inhabit is a mental construction from the mind of the all, and that there are different planes of reality by which the world operates, and also the underlying mechanisms that go on with miracles, prayer, divination, demonic possession, and other supernatural, occult, or religious phenomena that seem mysterious but are in fact not mysterious when we have this framework in place. Now, as mentioned before, there's a much deeper thing we need to understand when it comes to the fallen state as well as salvation. I made the point in a previous video that only God can save one from the fallen state. However, I left out how exactly God does this because I wanted to save this mechanism for the end, because it requires a full understanding of the entire Hermetic metaphysics. From the principle of gender, we get what is called marriage, where masculine and feminine aspect of reality will join together as one. In a Hermetic understanding of holy marriage, male and female becoming one in a manner that is both the inner and outer worlds reflect each other is described by the masculine and feminine aspects of reality. The reference to entering the kingdom of God, or in the last days as entering the global Eden, is also significant as it describes an exit from the fallen state. In a previous video, we explained the idea of the fallen state as it shows up in both comparative religion and how it is precisely paralleled by an examination of the topic in light of mentalism and correspondence. Here, we discovered that the fallen state constitutes fractured elements of consciousness in the mental and spiritual planes. What was not explained before is that these fragments possess genders. This is of course not unsurprising given that they derived from previously unified wholes, and that gender arises from the individuation of these wholes. The exit from the fallen state, however, signifies a different kind of marriage, although still a marriage between gendered elements. This is the marriage between the unified state of the mind of the all with the fractured contents within it, the marriage between God and man. This, of course, makes sense in light of mental gender as it is applied to the mind of the all. The mind of the all's I is masculine, and its me or contents are feminine. What marriage is the unification of these fractured states of the mind of the all. This marriage is precisely what fixes the fallen state, and it is how minds can be brought into an unfallen state. Without the marriage between God and man, it is impossible, in principle, for any mind to escape the fallen state. Likewise, the fallen state itself is caused by fractured consciousness, and this fractured consciousness is caused by conscious agents wanting themselves to become as gods. In fact, this phenomena is what happened when Lucifer decided to rebel against God. When Lucifer wanted to become his own god, he essentially divorced himself from God, and it's what created fractured consciousness. This fractured consciousness then spread to other conscious agents within the heavenly realm and across all planes of reality. The entanglements between God and the other conscious agents is what keeps together the unfallen state, and the unfallen state is precisely the marriage of God and these other conscious agents. However, this unfallen state becomes broken when other conscious agents divorce from God, thereby creating fractured consciousness, and likewise the evil states and separation that come with fractured consciousness. This may seem surprising at first, however, if we recognize that the mind of the all is perfect goodness, then breaking away from this goodness in the form of breaking a marriage will metaphysically create the fallen state. This is not God causing the fallen state, rather it is the metaphysical consequence of being separated from God. There is no moral judgment at work when this takes place. It is simply the feedback mechanism of nature. God tries his best to free minds from the fallen state through this marriage. However, not all conscious agents are willing to be with God, and so through their own free will, they will choose to reject God and be stuck in a state of separation and fallenness. Furthermore, we can also see how those who choose to stay in a state of fallenness will go into a deeper fallen state, what is traditionally called hell. In this state, conscious agents are completely separated from God and will perceive God in a negative manner. However, people who are in hell are not there for moral judgment. They are there because of the feedback mechanism of nature that happens when one rejects God. Hell is simply a much deeper degree of the fallen state that takes place when one has been in separation from God for a long period of time. So, from here, we understand how it all works together. The world can only be in a state of perfection when conscious agents are entangled and married with God. This may also explain the problem of evil and its metaphysical consequences on natural and moral evil in the world. However, it is not the scope of this series to go over the problem of evil, but it does provide us some clues as to the metaphysics of how it all works. Now, with this in mind, this explains how the global Eden will take place. In the new heavens and the new earth, all conscious agents will be entangled with God in an unbroken fashion, and this will cause all of the minds to experience the pains and pleasures of everybody else, and therefore there is no desire to inflict moral evil on each other, because doing so will cause pain to be inflicted against oneself as well. And likewise, this will explain the absence of natural evil, as the minds connected to God will be able to affect the environment akin to telekinesis, which in turn will eliminate the uncontrolled natural elements that generate natural evil. In the global Eden, the world will be perfect once everyone has a high enough sufficient connection to God. This is where all minds can be united as one, and there will be no more evil. Now, of course, sanctification is a process that takes time, and like all relationships, the relationship between God and man will have to grow over time and continue to get better. Sanctification is when the fallen state is fixed and the pieces are put back together. It is the process of salvation. We can only speculate for now, but the global Eden will be a perfect world and we will live for eternity. The most important part of this eternity will be being with God, who is perfection, and endlessly learning the mind of God. From there, our true worship of God will begin, and we will turn the entire universe into a perfect paradise and beyond.